Welcome back to the American Presidency Unfiltered, where we leave the marble columns behind and dive face first into the cigar smoke, bourbon breath, and downright bizarre moments from America's highest office. I'm your host, Brad Pitzl, part-time historian, full-time snark machine. Today's tale, well, it's a royal flush of weirdness. We're headed back to the 1920s. Jazz was hot, prohibition was happening, sort of, and our president was busy doing something very presidential. Losing White House china in a poker game. Yes, actual government property on the line with cigars, whiskey, and a bunch of shady buddies. So grab your chips, pour a bootleg drink, and get ready. This one's a bluff, a bust, and a national scandal all rolled into one. Today's episode is brought to you by politicaltradingcards.com. Grab a piece of history with the latest trading cards from the left and the right. politicaltradingcards.com. Let's start with the basics. Who was Warren G. Harding? Harding was elected president in 1920 on the promise to return America to normalcy, a word he may or may not have made up. It caught on, though. The country was tired from World War I, the Spanish flu, and Woodrow Wilson's stern academic vibes. Harding? He was a chill guy, the kind of leader who didn't lecture you. He lit a cigar and asked, dealer's choice? He loved poker. No, really, he loved poker. We're talking twice-a-week games at the White House, sometimes more. He'd play with cabinet members, advisors, and buddies from back home in Ohio. They were affectionately known as the Ohio Gang. Spoiler alert, the Ohio Gang was less of a gang and more of a band of cronies who made smoke-filled rooms look tame. And in one of those late-night games, somewhere between cigars, bourbon, and bad decisions, Harding reportedly bet and lost a full set of White House china. You know, the fancy porcelain plates with the eagles and gold trim? Presidential china, government issued, the kind first ladies pick out like it's their wedding registry. And he just gambled it away. Let's not forget the context here. This wasn't just a dude playing cards with his buds in a man cave. Harding was running the country during Prohibition, the noble, doomed attempt to get Americans to stop drinking alcohol. Spoiler alert, they didn't. But Harding, he drank, openly, and in the White House. He served liquor at parties, drank bourbon at poker games, and had a bootlegger on speed dial. It's like launching a national campaign to ban pizza and eating pepperoni slices behind the podium. The hypocrisy was real. But hey, it was the roaring 20s. Rules were mere suggestions. His poker nights weren't just a release, they were an institution. He smoked 10 cigars a day, loved his bourbon neat, and would gamble with anything. Money, cigars, furniture, apparently state-owned dinnerware too. So how does the poker china law stack up against other historical great feats by presidents? Well, Lincoln gave the Gettysburg Address, FDR had fireside chats, and Harding, he bet government plates on a pair of eights. Let's talk about the guys at the table, the Ohio Gang. Harding, ever the loyal friend, filled key positions with pals from back home, men who had less experience in government and more in backroom deals. They ran the Veterans Bureau, the Justice Department, and were frequent guests at poker nights. One of the most notorious was Albert B. Fall, Secretary of the Interior. Fall would later become the first U.S. cabinet member convicted of a felony while in office. You might recognize him from the Teapot Dome scandal, which we'll get into in a moment. But back to the poker room. Those weren't just casual hangouts. They were smoke-filled arenas where deals were whispered, favors were exchanged, and boundaries were blurred. Losing the White House china wasn't the scandal. It was the symbol of carelessness and corruption that was brewing beneath Harding's easygoing surface. Harding once admitted privately, "I have no troubles with my enemies, but my friends, they're the ones that keep me walking the floor at nights." Yeah, no kidding. So what happens when you mix poker pals, unchecked loyalty, and oil reserves? You get Teapot Dome, arguably the worst political scandal in American history, until a certain water-based break-in the 1970s. Here's the quick version. Albert Fall, our charming poker buddy and Secretary of Interior, secretly leased federal oil reserves at Teapot Dome, Wyoming. This was done to a private company in exchange for hundreds of thousands of dollars in bribes. He did it without competitive bidding, which, if you're not into oil law, is kind of like auctioning off the moon to your cousin. It was big. Congressional hearings, newspaper exposés, public outrage. Harding, to his credit, wasn't directly involved, but his "I trust my friends" policy backfired in a major way. And that's the thing. The poker games, the whiskey, the china, they weren't just a quirk. They were previews of how casual his administration had become with power and responsibility. Harding died in 1923, likely from a heart attack. This was just before the scandal fully broke. There's even some conspiracy talk that his wife, Florence, may have destroyed letters or even poisoned him to protect his legacy. So what became of the lost White House china? We don't exactly know. Some pieces may still be floating around in antique shops or secret private collections. Maybe some oil executive's great-grandkid is eating Cheerios out of them right now. But the point isn't the porcelain, it's what it symbolized. Harding wasn't an evil man. By many accounts, he was affable, charming, and well-meaning. But his presidency is a lesson in what happens when you confuse the presidency with a poker table, when loyalty trumps merit, and when governing becomes a gentleman's club instead of a constitutional duty. He bet more than a few plates that night. He bet on his friends, on good intentions, and on the idea that a chill leader could coast through one of the most volatile eras in American history. And in the end, the House didn't win. And that's a wrap on today's tale from the American Presidency Unfiltered. A president, a poker game, some very expensive dinnerware, and the early rumblings of a scandal that shook a nation. If this episode cracked your china, metaphorically speaking, be sure to subscribe, rate, and share. Until then, keep your poker face sharp, your cabinet clean, and your dinnerware government approved. I'm Brad Pitzl, reminding you that behind every great president, there's usually a weird story involving whiskey.